take a break from my intro and do that now. Pretend that it didn't happen already. I'm really, really excited to share this presentation with you guys. Our monthly resolution for this month is called Summer Resolution. We're at the halfway mark in 2020. We have 2 of our engagement board students from last year who worked on the campaign, who are going to be sort of facilitating this conversation for you. And we also have our guest speaker. We wanted to talk, we heard from a lot of you that what your students are worried about and what you're thinking about these days is mental health, in light of what's going on in our country with respect to racial justice, and of course, who could forget the global pandemic. So we wanted to bring a professional in. So I'm really excited to welcome Maddie Lawler, who is a social worker from New York, to the call. And just before I hand it over to her, our students who are going to be running the show here are Robert Fields of Pennsylvania and Maddie Murata of California. So we're very lucky to have these 3 fabulous folks running the conversation today. So just to give you a little idea of how it's going to work, Maddie will talk a little bit. Robert and the other Maddie have some questions prepared for her, and then Maddie 1.0 can take questions from you all if you have any questions for her.
What's happening?
If you want to,
are you throwing things at each other? Is there a bug out there?
Any questions that you have for Maddie while she's talking in the chat, we can kind of moderate that afterwards. And then we're going to have some small group discussion like we did last time. So I'll break you into mini rooms. You can get to know some of the other folks on the call and talk through some of the points that we're going to bring up today. So with that being said, I'm going to hand it over and I'm going to pin you, Maddie. I don't know if it's going to do anything, but there you are. Take it away.
Great. Well, thank you everyone for having me. I'm also going to take a moment to share my screen. Can everyone see that? Okay, cool. All right. So first of all, thank you guys so much for having me. And I am obviously, as Marie said already, talking about a few of the major mental health concerns of today, which are unique and unlike any other June mental health concerns before us. And so speaking specifically about coronavirus, police brutality, and then related to that, social media activism. So like Marie said, I'm a social worker. I am based in New York City. My studies focused on child trauma, and I have a specific interest in the intersection of mental health and education and legal systems as well. So I'm going to start off, if it clicks, there we go, about different coronavirus stressors. I'm sure none of these are unfamiliar to any of you. And of course, there's no surprise that various mental health stressors have come out of coronavirus. You've probably experienced one or perhaps all of these. This list reflects, it's non-exhaustive, but it reflects some of the natural anxieties around being sick, but also some of the impacts on life in terms of maybe you're being less productive at work, maybe you're asked to be more productive, possibly social isolation, or conversely, maybe you're living with a group of people that you don't normally live with, which can add stress. And this list doesn't even begin to reflect some of the risk factors that could exacerbate these stressors, such as poverty or violence. People being forced to be in their home, maybe with a violent partner or violent caregivers, people who might be out of work and experiencing higher levels of poverty, or even risky jobs if your job has become riskier just by the nature of coronavirus, if you work at a grocery store, if you work at a hospital. And these stressors can show up in a lot of different ways. So maybe you're noticing that you're sleeping less, or maybe you're more tired than usual. Maybe you're having super vivid dreams. You might be physically manifesting some of your stress, and possibly in new ways. Maybe you're, giving yourself a headache, holding tension in the roof of your mouth or in your back. Different symptoms of anxiety. Maybe you're agitated, you can't stop worrying, you're restless. Symptoms of depression have also been rising in terms of hopelessness and unable to find meaning. And so all of these are to say that there's different stressors and they show up in a lot of different ways. And the most important thing about this is that they're all very normal reactions to a very abnormal situation. So whatever you're feeling is normal, and however it's showing up is normal, and you're certainly not alone. Coronavirus is obviously something that's impacting the entire globe. So as normal as these reactions may be, it doesn't mean that they feel good. And handling your reactions is dependent on, of course, what the reaction is, but also who you are. And so the first part about handling some of the stressors is to practice checking in. So, before you, let's say you're wanting to learn about what's going on with coronavirus today, check in with yourself before you go on your phone, see how you're feeling. Check in with yourself while you're scrolling Twitter or the Times or the Wall Street Journal, whatever, however you get your news. And then also check in with yourself afterward. And this is something that is conscious work and effort to be checking in with yourself. But as you do that, you might start to notice different reactions. And then once you start noticing, you can say, oh, okay, this is what it's like when I feel good. This is what it's like when I feel anxious. And then you can kind of work towards addressing those feelings. And something that I think is important is that what might feel good or bad to me might feel good or bad to someone else in a totally different way. And so, especially with consuming media, some experts are recommending you take a step away from your phone, minimize your time consuming media in general, limiting your consumption just to trusted news sources. But really, it's kind of dependent on you. And so that's why it's important to focus on doing that personal work beforehand, and kind of checking in and saying, how do I feel about this, that, or the other thing? And then doing some of the work to think about yourself too, like, do you recharge going on a walk with your friend or reading a book alone? Is it helpful to exercise or rest? These aren't things that I or any other mental health professional would be able to decide for you. That really does take some work, and that's, of course, easier said than done. And there are some tools that are online and are free. Maybe you want to take a personality test, a Myers-Briggs or an Enneagram, and some of those free websites even have resources that, like, okay, this is what it looks like when a 3 is stressed, and this is how you can help it. So, for example, an Enneagram, I'm a 3, which is the achiever. So I value productivity. And what that means is that as my work responsibilities changed or diminished because of coronavirus, I needed to find other ways to feel productive during quarantine. So maybe that's running errands, getting groceries for my grandparents or my neighbors. Maybe that's just making a menu for the week, something that makes me feel productive and fulfills me in the way that I know I'm fulfilled, but looks totally different now that we're in quarantine. So the main takeaway here is that self-care and addressing all of these stressors is by no means one size fits all. I hate bubble baths. That's never going to be my self-care, but that might be exactly what someone else needs. So really what's important here is to do the work for yourself and figure out what serves you in addressing those stressors. And this will come up too when I talk about the police brutality and social media activism as well. So just something to keep in mind. And of course, there's different relaxation techniques. Part of it is finding what works for you. Maybe it's deep breaths. Maybe it's a guided meditation, some sort of, and making those self-care strategies routine is also helpful as well. So moving on towards police brutality and social media activism, which is happening again in the context of coronavirus as well, and what we know to be systemic problems of racism and years of police brutality as a result. But right now, the video of George Floyd being murdered by police kind of reignited the Black Lives Matter movement in a very new and major way. So I won't necessarily be going into why or how that is happening more prevalently today, but I do want to talk about how specifically the video of George Floyd being murdered inspired action, and kind of how that played out. So obviously the video and others that have come before and after it are objectively upsetting, and watching them or even reading, hearing, and learning about police brutality and the personal impacts of structuralized racism can be uncomfortable and upsetting. And so what's happening here is something called secondary or vicarious trauma, which is something that mental health professionals and police too are very likely to experience given their interactions with people who have witnessed or experienced some sort of traumatic event. So this basically means that just hearing about a person's trauma can cause reactions in the person hearing about it. And mental health professionals are encouraged to process that with their supervisors and colleagues, but now millions of people are witnessing trauma against Black people, Black men being murdered, and women and Black trans people of all kinds being murdered, and now they are forced to process that themselves. And so the trauma reactions that people might be experiencing manifest in three main ways: avoidance, hyperarousal, and re-experiencing. So vicarious trauma acts in the same way that trauma does in terms of these reactions. So, maybe you can identify with one or all of these. Maybe you're avoiding it because it's uncomfortable. Maybe you're ignoring the posts. Maybe you're tapping out, you're neglecting to engage. Maybe you're feeling really anxious, agitated. It looks like some of the anxiety reactions that I was talking about earlier. And then the re-experiencing can be particularly troubling too, because there might be people who are watching the video who are seeing elements of their own violence that was inflicted upon them. Or even if you're reading stories of Black students in predominantly white spaces talking about their experiences, and you're seeing that as well, you can be re-experiencing some of your own trauma reactions that you might have at one point successfully managed, and now they're coming up again. And so again, these are all very normal reactions to witnessing brutal trauma and violence against other people. And so I think it's really important to talk about why that's normal, because it can feel really uncomfortable. And if it's uncomfortable, we freak out and we say, this isn't normal, I have to fix this. But to also sit with the fact that it is uncomfortable and it is a normal reaction can be helpful sometimes too. And so then some of the management of that is really similar to what I was speaking about with coronavirus as well, in terms of checking in with yourself, when you're at a stable state, and then also when you're engaging, and then afterwards to kind of assess and understand what your limits are. Boundaries are really important here. And Lori Gottlieb, who's a therapist who wrote the popular Maybe You Should Talk to Someone book, talks about the concept of both and. So it's a way of changing your cognition or your thought, but then also accepting realities as well. So yes, people are dying. Yes, this is horrible. Yes, I should feel uncomfortable, and I can take a break if I'm feeling upset. And it's part of being kind to yourself too. And the same applies to coronavirus. Like, yes, people are dying. Yes, people are losing their jobs. This is horrible. And I'm grateful to spend time with my family. If you're only allowing yourself to focus on the horrible parts, it's much easier to spiral into those negative feelings. And the brain is super powerful, right? You can convince yourself of anything. And so that's part of the hyperarousal too, or the re-experiencing. You can convince yourself that it's happening again, or that you're in danger. And some of that may be real, and some of that might be a result of kind of getting wrapped up in the stress of it. So I think it's really important to focus on those check-ins to make sure that you're staying safe, and practicing calming techniques. And again, that looks different for different people, but knowing yourself and knowing what's going to make you feel good will help you to be kinder to yourself while you're doing the work and allowing yourself to feel uncomfortable at times. So that's kind of a general overview of the different ways that mental health stressors are showing up regarding coronavirus and social media activism in response to police brutality. But I wonder, I know that there are some questions that some students have, and then if there's anything else that's popped up as well, as we kind of went through the different parts of it.
Awesome. Thank you, Maddie. So I will hand it to Maddie and Robert, Maddie 2.0, for some questions. And then while they're speaking, if anyone else has questions that you want to ask Maddie, please put them in the chat, and we will make sure that we bring those up after Robert and Maddie 2.0 are finished with their question.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you, Maddie, for that very insightful PowerPoint. I think it gives us a lot of things to think about as we're going through this time of a lot of activism and just speaking out on a lot of issues that are happening right now. But I do want to ask you, Robert, and I have a few questions for you. I am actually looking to be a social worker in the future, and I'm very interested to see why you wanted to become a social worker.
Yeah, so First of all, social work is a very cool profession, so good for you. That's awesome, and really relevant now too, obviously, with everything that's going on that we just talked about. And for me, I was working as a teacher, and I found myself less concerned with academics and more concerned with social and emotional well-being of the students that I was working with, which was kind of what led me towards focusing on the mental health aspect as well. And then when I knew that I wanted to learn about mental health and work in that capacity, I was looking at different programs, and there's psychology. Didn't really want to go to med school for a million years, but what I really liked about social work specifically was that it did address the mental health components, but it also really focuses on looking at people within their environment. So it talks about like the systems that are impacting people, right? So it's not just, oh, there's something wrong with that person in their brain. It's saying, okay, is that a result of, like, what does their school look like? What does their home look like? What does their relationship with their parents look like? What about the kid who's sitting next to them in science class, And I think what's cool is that when you zoom out, you just get so much more information, right? So it's not just that someone can't sit still, so there's something wrong with their brain and they need Adderall or Ritalin or whatever, right? So maybe you're zooming out and you're saying, oh, well, they can't pay attention because they're worried about what's happening at home, or they can't, they're acting out in class because they're really angry about something in their personal life, right? So there's a million reasons why people act the way that they do, and not all of them are intrinsic to, they're not all hardwired. A lot of it's learned. And so I think that that's what's cool about the difference between social work and other mental health professions, is that this profession in particular really focuses on that zooming out and looking at systems and structures as well. I hope that answers it.
Yeah, it absolutely did.
Yeah, like Maddie 2.0 kind of said, thank you for the amazing presentation. Really insightful and everything. So my question for you is, with everything going on with everything that is going on with the world and everyone kind of still being quarantined, how much social media do you think is enough or too much?
Yeah, that's a really hard question. And I think that is super individual, right? That kind of goes back to what I was saying about knowing your personal boundaries. And also it could even just depend on your network, who you're choosing to engage with. If you're not seeing a lot of content on social media that's upsetting to you, maybe, you can carry on as you are. If you're choosing to engage with some things that are making you feel more uncomfortable, or whatever it may be, maybe you need to take a step back more than others. And so I think that, I think that it's important to stay informed. I don't think it's, necessarily productive to delete everything and stop reading the news. I think it's, I think that there's also this narrative too around, silence is violence and all of that. And I think that it can be really hard to navigate the line between performative activism and how much should I be involving myself, and then is it bad if I'm not, that kind of stuff. But I think that it's really up to you to say, okay, does this make me feel good? And if it's not, then that's a time to take a step back. So I don't necessarily have an exact answer about what the line is. But I think that, if you start to put in the work to see how you feel when you are consuming media, that could be helpful as well. I know that's vague, but we're different people.
Yeah, but social media definitely ties in a lot with mental health, and there's lots of research, especially now, on how social media is affecting your mental health. But on top of that, what do you think is the best way to maintain a strong mental health in this quarantine time?
Yeah, I think that obviously there's a lot about engaging on social media and what's good and what's bad. But I think overall, and that might impact your mental health, of course. I think too that that's kind of, again, dependent on what fills you up, right? So if for me, it might be important for my mental health to see my friends from a distance or call them more often, whatever it is. For someone else, it might be really taking this time to step back and have alone time. I think that it is really individualized, and that's why I would encourage some more of that assessment of saying, okay, what would make me feel good right now, and then kind of using that to guide you with understanding which strategies will be supportive of your mental health and which ones aren't, and trying to strike that balance as well. Because obviously there's things that are going to happen that are out of your control, and that's a big part of coronavirus for a lot of people, is not having any control and a lot of not knowing, which can create a lot of stress and anxiety. So as much as you can control of saying, okay, I'm going to do one thing a day that makes me feel good, I think that would help maintain mental health for certain.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, guys. Those are great questions. I want to open the floor now. If anyone else has questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask away before we move into our small group discussions. Nobody. Okay, great. Well, there will be plenty of time to talk more about these things. And I do want to get in, just sort of touch on, I think it's really interesting that our proposed incentive or initiative for this month was to create a new resolution for the second half of the year. And it ties, I think, directly into what Maddie was saying about really making yourself as aware as you possibly can be of your personal, like what benefits and serves your wellness most. And a really big part of that is assessment and figuring out where you stand and setting some goals to do the best that we can during this really challenging time. So with that in mind, I'm going to share my screen again and just put up some proposed discussion questions. Feel free to, if you'd like, this is a little bit frozen, which is classic. There we go. Oops. If you'd like, you can totally go off on in a different direction, but these are just 3 questions that we came up with that we thought would be good. How have you been actively taking care of your mental health in quarantine? So what strategies have you used so far that have been helpful to you? Have you been engaging in social media activism in recent weeks? If you haven't, why not? And if you have, what has that experience been like? Some high points, some low points. I know that that's something that's been coming up a lot in conversations with our engagement board students, as well as with my peers, and I'm sure that for a lot of you, so we can definitely spend a lot of time on that topic. And then finally, what is a resolution that you can make for the second half of the year to keep your mental health high during these really during these tough times where there are a lot of intersecting components that are compounding to create a unique circumstance for all of us that looks really different for everyone, as Maddie touched on. So if everyone can just kind of hold these questions in their mind, because I can't continue sharing the screen with you when I open the breakout rooms. And just really quickly, I'll leave you in there for about 15 minutes. So there should be enough time, or 15 or 20 minutes. So take your time. There will be one person in each room that can sort of facilitate and moderate. We have an engagement board student in every room, which is great. And I will be popping in and out to make sure that everyone is doing fine. I'm gonna move one person actually, and then we will be ready to go. So you will be prompted to join a room. So once you click accept, then you'll be in a mini Zoom call with a new group of people. So introduce yourselves, have fun, and get talking.
Hey, who you are? Hi, Marie.
Hi. Do you guys have the discussion questions?
They appeared on the screen.
Oh, great.
I don't
I'm
know.
glad that worked.
Okay,
Exciting.
I don't know how to grab them.
Bailey and Trinae, are you with us?
I am.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
I'm great. Have you guys met each other before? I feel like you've emailed a bunch.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know each other from vlogs and vlogs only.
Yes. Robert, you were at conference last year, weren't you?
Yes, but I don't remember conference that much.
I don't either. I don't know that we ever met.
It was a blur.
Absolutely.
I remember seeing all these pictures taken of you.
Well, introductions. Hello, my name is Robert.
Hello, Robert. I'm going to leave you guys to make sure everyone else is fine, but I have faith that you can handle it, Robert. You got this.
Thank you.
Marie, what was the first question again? I saw it pop up, but then it went
Wow,
away.
perfect timing. The first question was, how
Yeah.
are you actively taking care of your mental health in quarantine?
There we go. Anyone want to go first?
I can. Gables. Oh, hey, Miss Marie.
Hi.
Hey, do you guys have the questions?
Yes,
Yeah.
I have it on my phone.
You're
I have
correct.
it on my computer.
Sorry there aren't more people in your breakout room. That's okay.
It's fine.
These are-
We were
okay.
talking about the first question, your mental
Okay.
health in quarantine.
I'm going to keep cycling through just to make sure everyone else has the questions, but keep after it.
All right.
With school and stuff, it was harder to engage in deeper conversations, but I think now like getting into deeper conversations really helpful, so that's what I've been doing.
So I can go ahead. I'm a big to-do list person, so I have a list of things that I try and do every day. That I kind of like.
That's
Yeah.
my crazy idea. Hi, Marie.
Hi. How's it going in here?
So good. I think I'm hogging all the time on my activism for pedestrian safety.
Oh my gosh, you're good. This is like the state coordinator lounge. I randomized the rooms, and you three all ended up together. So that's really funny. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt as you were.
Oh no. You're welcome.
And I totally have not been doing very good on the self-care because we're moving in 3 days from a house that I've lived in for 30 years.
Oh my gosh.
Feel for
Yeah,
you.
my heart's about ready to pound out of my chest, but it's okay.
I feel for you. I feel for you. I did that right before Christmas. And not 30 years, but it was long enough.
Mhm.
So anyway, it'll be exciting. And our Stadia office equipment has no camera.
Oh, wow.
So we're very archaic here.
Do you guys have discussion
I went
questions?
from the
Sorry.
big,
I just wanted to
small
make sure.
communities, so-
Sorry, Teresa.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
I just want to make sure everybody has the questions because there were a couple groups that didn't have them.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have them, Mads?
Yeah.
Yeah, I read them before. Yeah.
Oh.
Got you.
Well, I can tell you this. I have to do social media for work, so I focus on that for work. But if this is a personal question, I have been off my personal Facebook for about a month now because
trying to attack people all the time. But I've been kind of doing that too. I've been just tracking how much time I'm spending on social media just because if I'm on Instagram and I see so many stories of the same thing, and it just gets to be a lot, and I just want to educate myself and not get so sucked into everything that's happening on necessarily Instagram. I'm on the most. But going into that a little bit more, how have you been engaging, or have you been engaging in activism on social media in the recent weeks? And if not, why? But if so, what have been some highs and lows?
I'll go. So mine's probably, I have been, but mine's probably very different than yours because I've been doing it in regards to getting kids back to school, right? Because the proposals that have come out of our school board have not been great, and or our superintendent have not been great, and I don't feel like this I feel like there are a lot of issues with our superintendent, and our school board is primarily, I would say like 2/3 of them are brand new school members, are brand new this year. So it's just maybe a lot for anybody. It's especially a lot if you're brand new and you're just learning everything, right? And so there are all kinds of groups, as you can imagine, that have started up on social media. And so I'm in a couple groups, and what I'm trying to do is really, like, obviously, I think 100% back to school is the best option for everyone for a variety of reasons. Do I think that we're going to be there come the end of August? No. Whether that's right or wrong is irrelevant as far as I'm concerned, because then the question is, well, then how do we provide what's the best education and how many students can get that, and what does it look like? And it certainly doesn't look like what we had in the fall, which was everybody watches videos. I'm not sure if that's what you guys had, but that's what we had. So that doesn't work for, quote unquote normal students. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but I mean, if you take out of any kids that have special needs or IEPs or live in poverty or are abused, I mean, it doesn't work, right? Yeah. And so, how do we balance the needs of all those students? And are there things, they're not willing to, at least they haven't been yet, like willing to do things outside of the box. Like we have, here we have something they call the Academy of Sciences, which is like a, almost like a magnet school, but it's a facility where kids that are really into math and science can go and take upper level science courses and math courses. And then as part of that, there's a more of a tech area where if you want to be an automotive technician or you want to be a chef, you can go, but it's not for everyone, right? So there's like 400 to 600 students who go there. So they go 2 days a week, and then the other days they go to their normal high school. But because of these students, we can't go to where you get the same class every day model. So we have to stay on the A-B schedule. So there's all these issues. So anyway, this is what I've been advocating. But
on social media, I feel like that is a very tricky wicket, and people can misinterpret your feelings and thoughts. And I think it's very personal and very emotionally charged, and I don't want to engage with anyone on social media that way. But I have been having lots of conversations with my loved ones. So I have 4 kids, and they have friends, and my husband and our friends. So haven't been avoiding it. I just don't choose to do that on social media. I do read a lot, and I've watched videos, and I believe I've learned a lot. But I just don't want to engage anybody that way.
Yeah, I get it. When everything started happening in the first couple of days, I just was not even online. I just wanted to talk to people that I knew personally about it, just to kind of get all my thoughts and learn stuff too. So
yeah,
that's a good point. All right, Miss Carrie, it's your turn.
So I'm with the rest of you on this. I'm very mindful about what I share, and really I just don't share anything. I'll go and I'll like things that other people have posted or not. I try to be very careful about things that are inflammatory rather than proactive. A lot of the stuff that's going around is very reactive, and as you mentioned, and Carol, and I think others have mentioned, we really don't know what's what sometimes, because we've got different people saying different things, and I think this is just really a hot button topic, and every time I have to turn things off after a while. My mind, it just keeps going in circles with the whole thing, so I have to disengage and think about other things. But every time I see some of this stuff with the statues coming down and all, it stresses me out, and I understand, but at the same time I don't. And when my father died, my mother she was in shock, and she started throwing everything away. And so I kind of see a similar reaction going on with everybody now. Everybody's just so upset, understandably, that we're knee-jerk reacting, and I just don't want to push that forward. And Kelly, like you, I talk with my family about things, and that's pretty much where I am right now. I try not to share on social, as Kelly said. Seems like things can be taken the wrong way, or anyway. Yeah, I'm with the rest of you on this one. I just kind of I listen and I watch and I read and I talk with my family and a few friends that I know well, but I try to stay away from the social media engagement.
Well, it's nice to listen to everybody's point of view about this too, because I know social media is a big thing right now. So
yeah, I think did everyone go? I don't want to.
Yeah, everybody went.
Okay, I'm gonna say something too. Like Carrie, you made me think of something. I think like for me, I've been engaging a lot on social media with respect to Black Lives Matter and also coronavirus stuff. And I think that my experience the past several months has been like I'm learning way more on social media than I normally do. Like what I'm consuming is actually like very educational and which is awesome. Like, and I really appreciate that, especially because a lot of the information that's being spread to me is all of the information that's being spread to me via social media is free. So I'm getting all of this free education, which is really, really amazing, like such a valuable resource. But the difference between like learning on social media from like learning, like you guys mentioned, like reading the newspaper or having a conversation or reading a book is that there's no end, right? Like when you finish a conversation or if you finish an article, you get to finish it, and then you can step back and actually like process what you've learned. And so the hard thing for me is like learning where that line is on social media and saying like, okay, like I need to now take some time to think about the things that I've been consuming and to talk about the things that I've been consuming so that I actually am learning something and not just like, you know, trying to digest constantly, because it's just not the way that our brains work. So that's been my sort of challenge the past few weeks, is trying to learn when to take a break and how to take a break and all that stuff.
Thank you for sharing.
Of course, I love to share.
We only have one question left, and the last one is, what is a resolution you can make to keep your mental health up? Anybody want to go first?
I can. I think for me, there's a lot of good on social media, like with what we're doing and with all of like the activism posts and spreading awareness and everything, but also there's a lot of bad and negative things like in comments and things like that. So
Welcome back. I think everyone will start trickling back in. The automatic closure doesn't happen for a full minute, so we'll get some stragglers in at the end. How are your discussion groups, everybody?
Good.
Love it. Robert, I'm glad the ears are still with us. I think it's important to be consistent, and they really actually kind of suit you quite well.
Yeah, I wanted to take them off, but mostly it's just because the strap that's just like tying on my neck. So
Yeah.
it's like I started the call with it. I kind of have to finish the call with it.
I like that. See it through to the end. It's crucial.
Absolutely.
All right, I think not quite everyone is back yet, so we'll let the rest of our 60 seconds play out. But I was just wondering if anyone would be brave enough to share an idea that they had in their discussion group for a summer resolution. Anyone wants to give us all some inspiration?
I can
go
share.
ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Carol.
Okay, I'll be really quick. So mine, or the one that I shared, was having social media business hours. So like kind of like a 9 to 5. Just having a set time to be online and a set time to not be online. Just the same way that we clock out of work, we should clock out of social media and just let our minds like think of other things and work on other things as well. So that was mine.
Love that. What's yours, Maddie?
Well, we kind of were talking about how we wanted to be more mindful of what we're learning about and reading on social media and not just mindlessly scrolling through everything and just like absorbing everything and thinking about it and yeah, not just being like just tapping through stories and that's how we're learning about things. But I also said that I wanted to take time away from my screen more. Like if I'm on a Zoom call, we kind of experienced this like last week actually, but if we're on Zoom so many hours, then it's a lot and you don't want to be on your screen again. So I want to take more time away from my screen and spend more time with my family and yeah, just cherish more memories with my family.
Nice. Yeah, Maddie and I had 4 Zoom calls in a row one day last week. It was a special time for us. Anyone else want to share their summer resolutions? These are both awesome.
I'll go.
Thanks, Robert.
Sorry. I think my resolution was to get out the house because I've kind of been stuck here for a good, I think the last time I went out and like saw someone was in, I would say May, but like March through May kind of was the same month. But it was like, I think it was 2 weeks ago and it was for half an hour and then not since quarantine. So the first thing I want to do, get out the house, like go stop, smell the roses. And then when everything like kind of gets cleared up to an extent, go see my best friend that lives down the street.
Love that. Human interaction is important. Anybody else want to share? I love all of these.
We didn't get to that part, but I will tell you that something I wrote down back when this started was to finally write some of the short stories down that I wanted to for a book. I haven't started yet.
Cool.
Before the year's out, I'll get there, but I haven't started.
I love that. I think that like a creative project is an awesome idea for this time. There's so much good creativity that comes out of weird circumstances.
Well, I've been saying it for 5 years, so I'm hoping this time this will give me.
Well, now this is your accountability. Now we all know about it, so you have to do it. Anybody else want to share?
I got a couple friends that said the same thing.
Nice. I'm going to text you about it. Anyone want to round us out before some announcements? Maddie Lawler, I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you have one? Our professional.
As Teresa said, we didn't get to that question. But I'm trying to think. I think that I, like Carol, have also been trying to set specific times for social media specifically, because I think that it can be really easy to just scroll infinitely. And so I'm trying to limit that to just times that I'm not working. Also to keep myself distraction free.
Love that. We love distraction free. It's hard.
We try.
When the distractions are, distractions these days are pretty high stakes. So, but that's why we're all here. So awesome. I hope that y'all have some good inspiration for your summer resolutions moving forward. I know I'm going to do a little journaling, write mine down. That's the only way I remember things. So I encourage you all to commit this to memory, however that works for you. Just a couple of little things that I want to plug that are going on right now that are in service of what we are talking about today. We have 2 campaigns that we're running right now. One is the Feel Good Feed, and one is another lookup challenge. So Carol, I was hoping maybe you could say a little bit about the Feel Good Feed, and then I'll handle the lookup challenge. Oh, you're muted.
So yeah, so the Feel Good Feed is going to be an Instagram story series. It was actually inspired by one of our Together Apart guests. She really stressed having a social media feed that gave her joy and made her happy and made her fulfilled and just inspired in general. So the Feel Good Feed, our goal is to help you guys or help our followers surround themselves with really nourishing information and nourishing content. So we're going to just be sharing a bunch of posts from pages that promote wellness online. And yeah, so that's mainly it. It's going to be mainly on our story, and we're also going to have a highlight on our Instagram page. And if you guys have any pages that you love to go to for any kind of comments or any kind of positivity, just DM it to us on Instagram so we can share them and share their voice with our audience as well.
Thank you, Carol. And this project has kind of been like Carol's baby for the past few weeks. So we're really excited to share it with you so that you can flood your feeds with content that makes you feel good. It's, you know, what a concept. The what she was saying is what Carol was alluding to. So the woman who wrote one of our Together Apart blogs, her name's Margaret. She said she suffers from a chronic illness, and she said one time when she was hospitalized, she just decided to go through her Instagram and unfollow everyone that wasn't giving her joy or filling her with positivity. And for every person that she unfollowed, she followed 2 activists or mental health professionals or wellness accounts. So really just like supercharging the content that you're looking at with stuff that is making you feel better, which I feel like is a really awesome idea. So we decided that we would try and deliver that to our people. So check that out. And then the second thing that I wanted to talk about was the lookup challenge. We talked about this last time. Now we're working on a new lookup challenge with SAD. So it's TextLess More with SAD and lookup, which is really exciting. And it's going to be every Monday. I don't know, Bailey, I know I'm putting you on the spot, but if you want to just say a little bit about when folks can find lookup challenge content on the SAD socials.
So there's not an exact time set. We're still early on in the process, but like Marie said, every Monday, it's been in the afternoons. You can look on our story. We'll be sharing stories that are from Lookup. TextLess will be sharing stories as well. It's all kind of just one big campaign that we're all 3 pushing out as 3 separate organizations working together as one. We're very excited about it. I believe this was the first week that it launched. So the initial posts go out on Monday. They're themed to be like motivation, themed around checking in with yourself on social media, keeping up with that, kind of helping you stay, you know, digitally independent. And then on Wednesdays, there's like another check-in or a reminder that Lookup is going to post on their story. And then I believe another one on Fridays. So stay in touch with SAD's Insta, TextLess, and Lookup. That's where you'll find all of the information. Again, Mondays, and then check-ins on Wednesdays and Fridays as well. And I believe this is an 11-week.
Yeah. So we're running it for the rest of the summer, and like the previous lookup challenge that was tailor-made for quarantine specific circumstances, the next lookup challenge is going to be tackling some of what we talked about today. So both pandemic stuff and social media activism and learning online and how we can balance the important time on social media with, you know, making sure we know where we're tipping the scales into something that's not serving us. So, and we actually are really interested in your input. So if you can think of something that you think would, after you're looking at the lookup challenge, if you can think of something that would be an awesome, what is the word that I'm looking for? An awesome intention for one of our weeks, please let us know. And we would love to share your ideas with TextLess Live More and Sad Nation and Lookup Challenge. Any other questions, comments, thoughts, feelings before I show you my final slide? Cool, love it. So I'm really excited to see everyone here today. This was our second ever Get Living Live meeting, and I'm really excited to see the turnout. Y'all are amazing. I popped in and out of all of your discussion groups, and it's really cool to see everyone so engaged in the conversation, and it's really, really important for all of us right now. I want to say huge thank you to Maddie Murata and Robert Fields, and of course to Maddie Lawler for bringing her expertise to us today. It's so important to hear from mental health professionals during these times where so much is happening that we're all trying to process. So I really, really appreciate you lending us your wisdom and knowledge today, Mads. And I want to plug, next month we're going to have another one of these because they're really fun and it's nice to gather from, I think we're representing like a lot of states today, which is very cool. I think I would say I'm confident at least 10. July's theme is digital independence, which Bailey so nicely teed me up for. Little 4th of July theme there. So it'll follow the same format. We'll have another amazing guest speaker and 2 of our engagement board students will be facilitating the conversation. And that will be Thursday, July 16th at 3 p.m. Eastern. So I hope that you all can join us. And until then, I wish you a wonderful rest of the month, mental health and social media balance. And I hope that this conversation carries forward into some other conversations with you today. Thanks everyone for joining.
Thanks for having me. Nice to meet everyone.
Thanks, Maddie.
Nice to meet you, Maddie.
Hi, guys. So you said it was July
16th.
Okay.
Yeah.
What time?
3 p.m.
3 p.m. Okay.
Yeah, girl.
I may not be able to do it because that's my birthday.
Okay. Listen, Catherine. Did you say it's your birthday?
No, July 16th is my birthday.
That's my dad's birthday too.
Okay.
Those are twins. Don't worry if you're not there because you are always at everything because you're a total rock star. So you're absolutely fine if you don't make it to that one.
Yeah, that week is also, I'm doing this 4-star leadership program.
You are the queen of leadership programs. How many leadership boards are you on right now?
SAD National, TextLess. I'll probably be on Louisiana SAD SLC. I just have to turn in my application by August. And I did get accepted into like this academy that was supposed to be at Quantico this summer, but didn't happen.
Of course.
But at least this one is going to be, virtual. So.
Cool. Right on. Catherine, I want to introduce you to Emma. Emma is the newest member of the TextLess Live More team. She's going to be working this summer on research and communication. So she's probably going to join us on our next engagement board call.
Okay, nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you.
Catherine is a 2-time engagement board member.
Oh, wow.
We didn't let her leave after her first year.
Why would I want to leave, right?
Nope, not allowed. We needed you too much. Well, thank you for coming, Catherine. I appreciate you as always. And thanks for moderating the chat. I saw that a little bit.
No problem. It was fun with me and Samantha because we're
you guys were just solo in your breakout room.
Yeah,
it's nice for y'all to get to know each other a little bit.
Yeah, we're gonna be doing tomorrow's camp as well. So
that's perfect then.
Yeah, I have another Zoom with her just to finalize a few things.
Cool. So. She's great. I really like her a lot. She's fantastic.
She's awesome. Yeah.
You two are our Southerners.
Yes.
Love it.
I was kind of excited. We got another Southerner. Just you know.
Yeah, we gotta have. I was like, this year I needed a Florida girl on the team. We didn't have any last year. I gotta represent my home state.
Yes.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, I will see you tomorrow at camp then.
All right. See you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.